Welcome to another Sunday morning conversation, everybody. Today, my guest is Kerry Shaffer. She's a retired Canadian national rower, and now she turned into a triathlete. She's got an interesting story. I think you should tune in and hear this one. Um, it's Cam Worf is also a former rower turned triathlete, so maybe you can get a little bit of insight on how Cam has made that transition. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you enjoy it. Give it a thumbs up if you like. Subscribe, and if you want to see more Sunday morning conversations, hit the bell notification. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I just got back from the pool.
Oh, nice. I'm
Yeah,
surprised I can't see goggle eye.
Can you? I don't know.
Oh, maybe up close, but who knows?
Well, yeah, I mean, they kind of just worn a groove in there after all the years of swimming. So,
Yeah.
so you are a national rower, right? How does
Yeah.
that? How did that work out? Like, when did you stop?
So I retired in 2016 from rowing. I had started like late in high school, did the college thing. I went to the University of Virginia to row, and then I actually had an injury that kind of took me out of rowing for several years, but I ended up kind of working my way back there just out of curiosity, see if my body would hold up, and it did. So that's kind of when I got back into the team. That was like 2011 is when I actually moved to the training center in Canada, and then and then just carried on through till 2016, and then kind of decided I was done for many reasons, but then I moved back to the States.
I'm sure you've got the calloused hands of a dock worker.
I did. My hands are pretty soft now. Like they don't really, like you might be able to see where they once were, but they
Yeah, there are some blisters here, there. You can see that.
Yeah, they've it takes a few years, but yeah, I'm shameful in the world of rowing now in terms of my hand calluses.
So you started rowing in Canada or when you moved to the States?
So I started in Canada. So I grew up in Canada near Niagara Falls. And yeah, I did that through my last 2 years of high school. So they used to have grade 13 and I was the last year of it. So I took advantage of that extra year to kind of increase my skills so that I could pay for my own school. And by that, I mean, so that a school will pay for my school.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's why came to the US originally, was for rowing in college. So and then once I finished college, I moved back to Canada to my parents' place, lived with my parents. But I ended up getting married in there, and then my husband's American, so that's why I moved back to the US. And while I was in the US is when I started rowing again, and then I moved back to Canada to row. So it's kind of complicated, I guess, but so I started in Canada. Really, most of my rowing career has been in Canada. So
Yeah, my parents live a couple hours from Niagara Falls in Northeast Ohio. So
okay, yes.
Yeah, we're in Youngstown, if you're familiar where that is.
Yep, actually, so our last, my husband's military, so our last station was actually in Michigan. So I was out that way fairly frequently when we were driving through to wherever we were going. So
You have to move about every 2 years?
4 for us, so it's kind of nice. We get a little bit more stability.
Now, what's that like for triathlon training, having to uproot on such a frequent basis?
I think generally speaking, triathlon travels really well. And, it's not everywhere has the same community, but you can bring your bike wherever, you can bring your legs wherever, you can find a pool somewhere or some body of water, hopefully. That's a tricky one right now, but it's actually a little different than rowing in that way. Like I can throw my boat up onto my car, but not everybody owns their own boat. And you have to find a body of water that's big enough and a place where you can actually get into the water, whether that's stepping into the water yourself or on a dock or whatever. So triathlon, I think, has traveled quite well. And when we were in Michigan, we actually had a great community it was a triathlon club there. It's the first time we probably had that. So we do miss that. We still are part of the club. We're just kind of, in a different, we're in Jersey now, so it's a little different, but yeah, it's something we can keep on doing as we travel.
Do you keep joining tri clubs wherever you go to kind of integrate yourself into the local community?
Yeah, so we typically look them up. It's easiest to find, I think, clubs on Facebook. We've tried the searching on the internet and it hasn't really worked out. But yeah, so we try and get plugged in or an idea of what's available in the area, where can I swim. New Jersey's a little bit different, so there really should be a lot more clubs. Yeah, there should be a lot more clubs in my opinion, and or a larger club. We did find one. They're a little far from where we're living, so we didn't end up joining the club, but it was helpful at least to know there was a community there, and they were all very friendly and nice. So, but yeah, in Jersey, we got plugged in with the cycling group. So that's been really great to get, for me anyways, because it's typically all men, and it really challenges me to keep up. They're very gracious, let's just say that. But yeah, so we usually find somewhere, and again, triathlon community, sporting community, people are good. And if you find somewhere that's not so good, there's always someone else somewhere that you can plug into. You just got to kind of search around and do some research. And like I said, Facebook is, I know that's like an old person thing now, but it seems to work for finding clubs and connections. So
yeah, New Jersey is the Florida of the North.
It kind of is, yeah, I guess. It's an interesting place. It's weird being between two big cities, you kind of get your transient community.
Yeah, and there's always this range to where if you're working in New York or Philly, there's a boundary line to where it's no longer feasible for you to commute, and then the prices drop on property.
Yeah.
So yeah, so going back to rowing, how big is your boat? How have you transported it from Michigan to Colorado to New Jersey? How's it got around?
So the boats are quite long. They
Don't send it USPS. I just took a 2-day package. It just took 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, yeah. Right now, mail has not been so predictable, has it? No, I just carried on top of my. I have it's like sling. It's like a sling almost, and it's on a long bar on my car, and I just attach it when I need it. And then the boat rests in those slings. So yeah, it extends way past, it's 27, 30 feet.
Whoa.
Long. So
64 long. 18 feet. So this thing is long.
Yeah. So yeah,
it's
and
skinny too, right?
Sorry?
It's skinny too, right?
Yes, yeah, they're pretty narrow. Like my hips, I have wide hips, but my hips are the width or wider than my actual boat. So some people hang out of their boat a little bit, but you just get used to that.
That's right.
But yeah, so it's,
yeah,
they're pretty narrow.
Right now.
Pardon me?
I said, that's all right. I hang out on my swimsuit a little bit right now.
I think we all do. I was actually just saying that yesterday. I put on a shell to ride outside, and it was a little extra snug, and I thought, I really like to think this was like I put it in the dryer, but I'm pretty sure it's because it sat in the closet for too long and I grew it out of it.
Okay. So for a 27-foot boat, is that just for one person to row?
So 27 feet, but yeah, that's just a single, that's how long they are. When you get into the 8s, like the largest, like you're looking at 30, 40 feet. So they're a lot longer. The more people you put in, obviously the longer it needs to be. You don't put those on your car top. The single, sometimes you can get a double on your roof rack, but you have to kind of jerry rig that so you don't damage the boat, but I wouldn't do that for long travel. But yeah, so usually we have trailers that trailer all our boats and wherever we went. And when I was with the team, if we were traveling overseas, the company that we worked with, Hudson Boatworks, they have kind of a home base in Europe as well. So it was actually the same guy just about every single time. So we got to know him, but he would drive the boats out to wherever we were, whether it was our training base, which typically was in Italy, and then to whatever races we had. So Yeah, it's and some of the eights come apart. Like in Europe, the trailers have to be shorter, so the eights actually come apart, and then you put them back together. So they kind of they call them sectionals. So they cut off one end and then the other end, and you can fit them on the trailer better that way.
Yeah. Okay. So where's the coolest place you've ever rode?
Ooh, first one that came to mind was in Slovenia. We rode in Bled. So if anyone, as soon as I say that, probably anybody who's been to Bled has been like, oh yeah, it's like rowing in a fairy tale. It's the water is this beautiful blue. There's this little, you know, the water that we row on. There's also a little island in there. There's I forget what you call them now. It's like these dinghies that they'll row across, and I think there's a church on that little island. I never actually got there, but and then overseeing the whole lake is this mountain that has this old castle, and I can't remember the history very well to repeat it, but you can look into it. But it's really cool. So you can actually go up to the top of there, and they'll give you some of their, you know, local delicacy cake stuff they make. And anyhow, it's really, really cool course. That was my first world champion, or sorry, that was World Championships, yes, because that was, that was 2011, I guess. But yeah, so that was probably the coolest place I've rowed. I've had the opportunity to row in so many other places, though. Australia was like something that I wish I'd been able to see more of the country, but being able to row there, and we got to train in Tasmania, which was really cool. Most of the races were European, Switzerland or Italy, or they kind of repeat some of the same places. Rowing needs a very specific type of body of water, and so they kind of limit it. But
Yeah. So you've been at Lake Lanier up by me then?
yes, I have. Yeah, that was actually one of my first training camps too. We did. So like would have been actually around now, I guess we would have been out there, and so a little bit cool, but not snow on the ground and not frozen water. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, lakes don't freeze down here, or at least not the bigger ones.
Mm-hmm.
And Lanier is probably the biggest we have. Yeah, that rowing, the rowing stands is over by where they do a lot of open water swimming, and they have a triathlon there too.
Oh, good. Yeah.
It's a sprint, not very far, but
it lends itself, rowing courses lend themselves well to triathlon. So the course I grew up on, it's actually in Welland, Ontario. They did Pan Am Games.
Now.
Yep. So that's where I grew up rowing. But they now run with Multisport Canada runs a triathlon.
Barrelman.
There's called the Barrelman.
Yeah.
It's a half. It's a half distance. I don't know what to say. That's not like breaking Ironman's rules, but
don't
whatever.
Worry. I don't got
but yeah, so they do a half distance. They run it like a whole festival. It's actually, if I can plug that race, it's such a phenomenal race to do. It's branded with Multisport Canada, which they run phenomenal races, and you know you're going to have a good time when you go. There's a great little festival at the end of it, assuming COVID is something we can manage. But the race itself is, honestly, if it's your first time doing a half, or you just want to do your triathlon for the first time, the course is on a rowing canal, which is protected. So even if there's like 40-kilometer, winds, you're barely going to get a ripple on the water. And it's straight up the buoy line, across and back down the buoy line. So you have a good sight line the entire time. And then the bike is like, it's so fast because it's out to Lake Erie. And then you turn, and then you've got the wind at your back for pretty much the whole way, and you go all the way to Niagara Falls, actually. And then the run is 2 loops that go past the falls. So you get to see one of the world wonders at the same time and feel the spray. It legitimately is very close, and really great for spectating. So, but anyway, so that's yeah. So rowing courses lend themselves really well to triathlon and swimming.
Yeah, I've definitely looked at Barrelman too, because my parents don't live all that far away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I don't have a passport. I've never had one, because the last time I went to Canada, you didn't need one. So it's been a while.
Well, there's some motivation during COVID. You can get yourself a passport, and when everything opens up again, head out and race there.
Yeah, I was looking at so earlier in the year I talked to a guy who does X tries, and there's an X try in Canada called Canada Man, Canada Woman. It's over in Quebec. So
Hmm.
I'm like, all right, that's like something cool I could do. So I'd have to get my passion for that eventually.
Yeah, there's lots of cool races out in Quebec, especially if you want to stay kind of on that side of Canada without going out west. They've got a lot of cool terrain, challenging terrain. So
So what brought you to triathlon? And you said we earlier. Does your husband do it with you?
yes, yeah. So he's the one who actually got me into it. So he started triathlon recreationally, like maybe late high school, and then some in college, and then not just again recreationally or with his like academy team or whatever. But so when I retired when I finished rowing with college, part of my training and my rehab was oddly enough running and things like that. So I was really into running for a long time, much better shape for running back then. But that's where I kind of got my first taste for it. And I raced maybe one or two little sprints. But then I went back to rowing. And then when I retired fully in 2016, I needed something to do. I think we've been hearing a lot more about it lately, but kind of the mental aspect of transitioning from sport, and people transition from whatever it is in their life, but in my case it was transitioning from sport. I had been an athlete for years. I thrived off it, and still do, and that's kind of you build your identity in that a little bit. And so as soon as I finished, it was like, okay, like it's nice to have a break, but I think it was less than a month and I was like, I'm lost, like I need something. So I didn't stop training completely ever. Like I, do things on my own and try and let my body kind of heal from a lot of training for 5 years or 6 years. But my husband had planned ahead, knowing me. Thank goodness for him. He had actually already researched many coaches that he thought would be good options for me. So that made it. So then I ended up just picking up a triathlon coach, so like just have some structure, some guidance, something that I was used to. And yeah, so then then that became kind of my sport from there. So I do miss rowing. I miss side-by-side racing. I think that's my thing, is you put me next to somebody and it's kind of that like hunt people down, destroy, like whatever, you get into that mindset, you know what I mean, right? Triathlon's a little bit different because it's a little more insular, but anyhow, so that's kind of how I got into it. Yeah, and it's I've stuck with it, so I must like it enough.
In triathlon, I'm always the hunted rather than the hunter, because I'll get out ahead of my friends in the swim and they come to chase me down.
See, I'm a mediocre swimmer, so I don't typically get out of the water before anybody, but I can hunt on the bike. I mean, my legs aren't what they used to be when I was training full time, but my bike is certainly my strength. So I like to think of that as I still have some work to do though. Let's say that my nutrition is terrible, so that pretty much kills me. My nutrition during my bike, anyway.
Okay, so what are some of the more fun races you've done? You've done Barrelman, right? So what else?
Yes, yep. Yeah, I've done that. That one was actually just I wanted to do it. I was injured for the run, so I just walked the run. But yeah, it was great. What else have I done? Oh, I did Daytona, so I did that this year, which was pretty cool. It was neat to be on the track for the 2.5 laps you were there. And honestly, the course itself was super fast. And that was part of my nutrition problem. I got head down and got into it and just didn't have to bring my head up again, and kind of forgot to eat or drink anything. But anyhow, so that was a cool experience to have. Then what else have I raced? This is gonna be funny. I raced a little sprint one, and we went to Lanzarote. My husband raced Lanzarote, the Ironman race out there. So I went out just to train and kind of fun. And I did a little sprint race there, so that was kind of nice. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like every race is so different. I can't say that I've been to one I haven't really done anything else overseas. And I was supposed to do New Zealand 70.3 Worlds this year, but obviously that kind of was out. So I actually just deferred to Utah.
That's better. It's cheaper to fly.
Yeah, for sure. We were fortunate that we were able to get our flights back, but so yeah, so we didn't have to worry about that. But yeah, it'll definitely be cheaper, closer. My husband's race, he said it's a beautiful course, challenging but beautiful. So I'll look forward to that. Yeah, and we're blanking on other races I've done. To be honest, I haven't really raced a ton. Most of them are just local races to where we're living and kind of supporting those small races. But to be honest, a lot of the times those are pretty awesome races. You meet some pretty cool people.
But you earned a world slot. Where did you do that at?
So where I took my spot was at North Carolina. I had raced in Steelhead and got it there too, but I didn't feel like when I say this, please don't take this like I'm saying that people shouldn't take spots in certain different ways. But for me personally, I just didn't feel like it was a good enough race for me that I deserved it. So that's kind of, I didn't take it, and on the hopes that I have a better race and deserve the spot. That's me personally. I do not put that on anybody else. Like, no one else should ever feel like they have to think that way. That's just how I think, and that's just probably from my history. So I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea that, I think, if you are offered a spot, it's yours for the taking. So, but
hell yes, I'll take my slot.
yeah, it was my personal opinion on that one, but
yeah.
Thoughts, sorry. But yeah.
We've done a lot of the same races. I did North Carolina when it was back to beach to battleship. I was going to do Daytona this year, except for I just don't trust Florida and COVID, so I didn't go.
Yeah.
I deferred to Miami, so I'm gonna do
okay. Let's hear how that goes. I was thinking about that when they were kind of advertising it, obviously. So it should be fun.
I mean, I predict that their next race will be at the Indy 500, so they'll keep expanding. And then my other prediction was after Indy, they're going to go up to Montreal because there's some kind of Indy track up there.
Yep. Yeah, that actually wouldn't be a bad idea. Like if Montreal let them, because they do have a track out there. There's a lot in Quebec and Montreal that people don't realize is there.
I don't speak French, so I've never been.
Yeah, it is a little bit tricky when you don't. Montreal's not bad because their university's there, so there's a lot more English speaking. But in Quebec, it's a little bit challenging sometimes.
Yeah, and it'll compete with Mont Tremblant. So.
Yeah.
Well, Kerry, thank you for meeting with me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. It was good to see your face, not just in a photo.
Yeah. I mean, I look good with my dead hair, and
Yeah. I wish I could be asking you questions. I feel like there's so much I could learn about you, but I guess I'll just have to keep watching your vlogs. And
you can ask me anything you want.
We can turn this interview around. We're just gonna start interviewing you.
Sure. What do you want to know?
Sure. I would love to know how you started with triathlon.
Okay. So I used to coach master swimming for the Atlanta Rainbow Trout. It's an inclusive swim team, if you didn't get by the name.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they had triathletes on the team, and for about 2 years, they kept nagging me to do triathlon. So finally I said, okay. And I hadn't been in the water in like 7 years. So I started swimming. I signed up. This was July that I decided. So I'm like, all right, well, it's the end of the season by the time I get to one. I did one in October in Tallahassee, Florida. And then, you're either hooked or you never want to do one again. I was hooked. And that was 2014.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And your longest distance, what have you done? Like, what's your favorite distance, I should say?
My favorite 70.3. I feel Ironman is fun, but I have always felt like it's putting your eggs in one basket when it comes to your season. You don't get to race a lot. I like to race a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I like to travel, you know, go all over the place. You know, you being with a military husband, I'm sure you travel much as it is, but I never really, you know, traveled much when I was younger. I didn't go to a whole lot of places, so I like to do it now.
That's good. That's one way to do it, eh? Have a goal and then use that as your reason to go somewhere.
Yeah, and I actually prefer independent races, you know, like in Barrelman and stuff, or Orchard Challenge over Ironman, just because I feel Ironman's so corporate, and once you've done a few of them, it's okay. But you know, I've actually thought they've went downhill, and I like the independent flavor. They all have a different personality of the race director.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point.
You know, if you would have done North Carolina when it was Beach to Battleship, it was a whole different show. I actually talked to Jeremy Davis, the guy who used to run it, and we reminisced. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun.
Hmm. That's cool. Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I raced it as an Ironman event, so but I did hear really good things about the original. Um, but it's hard, right, when you have small independent companies like to sustain that. Whereas, you know, like you said, something like Ironman as large corporate, they can afford to lose some money if they have to for like during COVID. Like I'm sure they're struggling. I'm not saying that everybody's doing wonderfully, but any other independents may struggle this year, you know,
I
trying to make it.
I actually think the independents are going to be all right. Um, they typically are in less populated areas, so it'll be easier for them to get permits rather than Ironman, who drops himself into Chattanooga. In Chattanooga, like places like that are really strict about permits. So Ironman, you know, depending on the rollout of the vaccine, is going to get hurt
Mm,
because of how slow things are going. You know, right? There are going to be places like Florida who don't care and they will, you know, give you the permits anyway. Arizona, they'll get their permits there. But, you know, Ironman is going to have some races canceled. They're going to wait to the last
mm,
second. That's what they do. But, you know, and the thing is, can they afford to keep deferring them to the next year? They're going to say, we can't do that this year. And you have to eat.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's like how some of the independent races have had to say, like, sorry, like, we'll do a virtual this year, but that's your option. And, you know, that's what they've done. But yeah, I guess with smaller areas, you have more options as to limiting numbers on an event, having a last minute event pop up. We actually did a last minute event in Michigan, no, in Jersey. And it was great, small, like, but they made it happen. But anyhow, sorry, I digress.
That's all
But,
right.
but
Yeah.
yeah, half is great.
I mean, I signed up for 14, well, technically 17 races in 2020.
Oh wow.
15 got deferred, 2 of them got refunded. And the 2 of them got refunded were charities. I told them, I said, you keep the money.
Yeah.
I don't want your money. But the 15 that got deferred, it was a mix of 70.3 sprints and Olympics. You know, some local stuff, some the Ironmans traveling a little bit because there was the 70.3s were Memphis, Ohio, Chattanooga, and then there was going to be Daytona for challenge. So I'll do Daytona again next year, and then I'll do Miami. So I'll be racing like all year, basically.
You can have something every weekend.
I took and at least 2 times a month, I think, on average. But yeah, I took like 7 or 8 months off during COVID to work on the YouTube stuff and do other things because I'm very much a carrot on a stick type person. I need to have something to work towards, and if I don't, then I don't care as much.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, it's good that you recognize that. 'Cause I think a lot of people don't recognize that and then find themselves in this like, state of what do I do with myself, and then they realize, wait, I need something to do. I need a goal. But,
Yeah, and like I said, traveling for races is fun, and it doesn't matter where it is. I'll find stuff to do while we're there. You know, there was a race in Alabama that me and my ex went to called Goose Pond. It was a half Ironman, and it's in the middle of fucking nowhere, right? And like, there's no quick way to get there. We had to go through the middle of Georgia or middle of North Georgia with nothing around us to get to it. And I looked up some places beforehand, and then I remember watching this TV show years ago about this store, and it's called Unclaimed Baggage. It's where when they lose your baggage on the airplane, it ends up there. They buy it for like a low price or whatever, and all your stuff.
Yeah.
Well, lo and behold, this is in the town that we're racing in. I'm like, we're going. My mom's like, I always wanted to go there. I'm like, sorry you didn't come. And it was
That's
like,
funny.
the clothes selection is better than Macy's. It's like all stuff that people didn't even wear. You have like bulk crates of like, polos that got lost, stuff like that, whatever. There's tons of garments and all jewelry, whatever whatever you pack in your bags ends up there. So it's a neat little thing, and I can find stuff like that wherever we go.
Yeah. There's a lot of hidden gems out there.
Yeah, so that's why I don't mind independent races, because there's Michigan Titanium that's on my list.
Mhm.
So I might be doing that next year. I forgot.
That's a popular one in Michigan for sure.
Yeah, I've talked to the guys. I wrote an article on Michigan Titanium earlier this year. They're really cool guys, so I like them. So,
Good.
yeah.
Grand Rapids Tri is another good one.
That's also there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the same kind of area, but they, although this year, I think they may have already sold out. I can't remember when so like for me, I did the virtual instead last year because I knew we were moving, but they gave me a code that I could sign up in an early period. So if anybody who signed up last year could sign up in this early period, that you'd still be paying for if you did virtual last year, but, and then it'll open up to general, and they made it a 2-day affair because they have all sorts of events, but they were expecting to sell out pretty quick, but from what I've heard, it's a great race. I was looking forward to racing it. I just didn't know if I'd be able to make it happen this year, but that's another one if you want to look at another Michigan one.
Yeah, that's owned by the same guys who run Titanium.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I definitely go up there. I have a friend who lives in the Ann Arbor end, or Ypsilanti, or somewhere around there. She moved twice, so I don't remember exactly.
Well, they'll be right there then. You don't have to worry too much about.
Yeah, I just drive up 75, crash with them for a day, and go over to the race.
Yeah. Here you go.
What I didn't know about Michigan was when I did Steelhead, I didn't realize like it's cherries everything.
Oh,
Cherry
yeah, especially if you go up to Traverse City.
Yeah.
Which now that Ironman race was in Traverse City, and now it's in Frankfurt, I think.
Yeah.
So it's now just 70.3 Michigan or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
People up north are a little more protective of their areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, cherries.
So my first Ironman that I did was on Lake Erie. It was the Rev 3 Cedar Point.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I was one of the people who didn't care whether it was an Ironman or not. So I just went and did that, and I had a lot of fun. And I talked to the race director of Rev 3. He's like, "Yeah, I would love to bring that race back, but I don't ever want to do another Ironman distance again." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work. That's like one. So two of the races that my first races were when I was living in Florida and Pensacola area, and there was one. I don't know if they still do it. The Santa Rosa Tri. They gave out some really cool trophies. They were like tiki, like I don't know, tiki things that were like carved. But anyway, that one was like a sprint. I think I don't even think they had an Olympic. But then Pensacola Tri. The friends of mine actually run that. That's a really awesome race too. But I think they only do an Olympic right now, but I would not be surprised if they try and turn that into a half as well, because they're very ambitious. So yeah, it's like, I mean, honestly, it's kind of a fun area to go and visit too. And who doesn't like going to the beach, right? Like,
I kind of don't.
Oh, all right. So we
It's
went
not that I
to
hate
the race. The race isn't in the open ocean. It's in a bay. So
It's not that I hate the open ocean or bay or whatever. It's the sand, and it gets everywhere.
yeah, it's true.
Wow, I didn't grow up near sand. It's weird. I'm like, God, people are like, you don't know how to lay your towel down right. I'm like, no, I don't. I didn't grow up near the ocean.
I didn't know there was a correct way to put your towel down. But
No, I don't
guess
know
that's both of us from the
Sand
north.
gets everywhere. It's all over me, my bags. Yeah. So that's the thing about that. But I've done Gulf Coast a couple of times, so.
Okay. Yeah.
One year the swim got canceled.
Happens, right?
Well, thank you, Kerry. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks. You too. Enjoy your ride if you're able to get out for it.
Thanks, guys, for watching another Sunday morning conversation. If you liked what you saw, please do like and subscribe. And if you want to see more of them, click the little bell notification, and it'll tell you whenever I post another one. Thanks again.